The 49ers blew out the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC Wild Card game today by a score of 41-23. Brock Purdy did something that neither Joe Montana or Steve Young were ever able to do. We're going to get into all of that next on the 49ers postgame show. Hey everybody, this is Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. Took me a couple extra minutes to get my post-game write-up done, but I'm ready. I'm here to talk all about this game. It was a lot of fun. Let me just start by shouting out a few folks over in the comment section. I want to make sure I get your names out there. And then as this show goes along, please make sure you hit me up with your questions, your comments, things that you want me to discuss. We'll definitely get to that as well. We have Raphael 569ers. Good evening, Jack, members of the Toolbox and everyone. Raphael, thank you for joining me once again. It was good to see you earlier today. We also have the Stivers Niners 209 show. Jack, we effed up the Seattle Seahawks. They most certainly did. James Foster says, sup, yo. Sup, James. How you doing? We have Black 59 Razor. Hello, Jack. He says, this second game is terrible. Yeah, I just saw the score of that. That looks awful. Texas Niners says, Niners. Hello. And then we have Lucas Pesci, another member of the Toolbox, coming to us all the way from Austria, says, hi, Jack. Hi, Lucas. Hope you're doing well. I hope you were able to enjoy this game today. It was a very interesting game. It wasn't we know it was a blowout in the final score, but it certainly didn't look like it was going to be that way over the first half of the game. E. Kim says, hey, Jack. How you doing? E, it's good to have you on board. We have Niner Gang Wolfcast with the fire emojis, Savory Movie 197. Hey, Jack, and sup, 49er Faithful. What a great day to be a 49er fan. G9 Garage, what's up, Jack? Everyone, hello. And then we have the Mua family who says, nice to see you safe and sound, Jack. Thank you very much. Yeah, everything worked out. It's still raining a little bit here. The leg that I injured earlier today is working its way back. It's still sore, hard to walk. I'm definitely walking with a limp, but for the most part, it's okay. Glad I'm not having to try to drive back for 2 hours to get home tonight. That's the one saving grace with the injury that I have on my leg here. And then G9 Garage also says, what a game. So glad we punched them in the mouth rather than squeeze a win by 3 points. Yeah, this is a really interesting comment because, at one point in the game, I thought it was the 49ers that were getting punched in the mouth. Lucas says it was hard to watch the first half. I was really nervous. It was definitely a back and forth game early in really the second quarter. Marcos Batista says, hi, Jack. Hi, Marcos. Good to have you on. And then E. Kim also says, good win, plenty to work on for next week. Absolutely. And there was a lot to like about this game. Just kind of go through some of my takeaways, and I'll bounce back over to your comments as we go through as well. For me, this was an interesting one. They came out, the 49ers come out, first half quarter, really kind of the game goes the way that I think a lot of us were hoping that it was going to go. You see them jump out to a 10-point lead. Things are looking really good. They've pitched a couple of 3-and-outs to start the game on defense. Things are looking good. And then the wheels kind of start to fall off for the 49ers. And you see Seattle going a long drive. You see them getting some rhythm with their with Geno Smith. You see Kenneth Walker starting to get a little bit more traction going. And they drive down the field and score a touchdown, an easy 7-yard touchdown run around the left side for Walker. 49ers slanting to their left really helps open up that run lane there. It's one of those things you're taking a guess based off of tendencies, and you slant to the left and they run it to right into it the opposite way. Nothing that was a tough one for the 49ers defense based on what was called by D'Amico Ryans. Then you have the big touchdown. 49ers score to make it 13-7, but then Seattle comes right back again. And this time it's the deep ball. And Travaris Ward, he struggled in this game a little bit with DK Metcalf, more so than what we've seen him struggle in the first two matchups. Gives up the 50-yard touchdown down the left sideline. And next thing you know, it's a 14-13 game. Seattle's leading. And then just when you think the 49ers are going to go in at the half with a lead, kick that field goal right at the end to go up 16-14, you just have a really bad play from Jimmy Ward. right at the end there. I don't fault the coach for kicking the squib kick. That's one of those things. Normally you do that and helps run out the clock. If his defensive players execute, we're not even talking about it, but they don't. Jimmy Ward comes across. He has a bad personal foul penalty. So instead of the time running off and going in at half 16-14, Seattle's able to try a 56-yard field goal. They nail it, go in at half themselves up 17-16, feeling pretty good. And the only thing that I'm going to say about that is this isn't the first time we've seen Jimmy Ward make that mistake. Jimmy Ward made that mistake last year down in Los Angeles in the NFC Championship game, if you remember, right after the drop by Jaquaski Tart. The very next play was a throw down the left sideline, and Jimmy Ward comes across and he hits helmet-to-helmet contact. I believe it was on Beckham Jr. And that extends, makes it just another 15 yards on top of it. They go down and score. And so this is a couple of times now that this has happened with Jimmy Ward in the playoffs, and you got to be better than that. That's a situation where when you have a 9-year veteran who's one of your captains, you don't expect a play like that to be made. So tough one there. But then the second half was just a completely different story. I think you look at the second half of this game, and 49ers come out, they score early, score on their first possession. That's the quarterback sneak by Brock Purdy to get into the end zone. I think the game turned on the following possession for Seattle. Seattle's driving the ball down the field. They get into the red zone. It's a long drive starting from their own 25. They get all the way down there. They're to the 14 of the 49ers. They have a false start, I think it is, that backs them up. And then you get the sack, Charles Omenihu. The Charles Omenihu strip sack, I think, changes this game around completely, because instead of this being a game that's 23-20, Omenihu comes in, he gets the sack, Nick Bosa fumbles on it, and then the 49ers drive right down the field, score another touchdown, this time on a pass from Purdy. And you're excuse me, you're up. Now you're up big. You're up by a score of what is it now? 31-14, right? Because you get the 2-point conversion to George Kittle. So you've taken what would have been a 23-20 game and you turned it into a 31-14 game, or 31-17 game, excuse me. Just completely changes the complexion of that, completely changes the way that Seattle is going to go about it. I think that's, if you're giving out a game ball to anybody based off of who made, I think, the play that turned this game around, that goes to Charles Omenihu for the strip sack, and then Nick Bosa with the fumble recovery. I mentioned this earlier too. Now going back a little bit as far as the offense, I mentioned this earlier. You look at the 5 burning questions that I asked earlier today, and also what I asked on the blog was, is Brock Purdy going to be ready for the moment? You watch this game today, and you watch the first half, and especially early on, that first series was not good. I didn't like what I was seeing out of Brock Purdy, because that is what we saw from him in that first series is something we had not seen from him at all during the regular season. We kind of saw it a little bit maybe during preseason when he was playing with the threes, but we haven't seen that since he stepped into the starting lineup against Miami. You saw a number of throws that were just off the mark, and into one of them was a slant to Juwan Jennings, I believe it was. That was into really tight coverage. We saw him do that again later. But for me, it was the miss to who was that? The miss to Deebo Samuel on the first play of the game. The throw to Juwan Jennings, he holds on to it just a tick too long, and so the ball's short, and they're able to make a play on it. They settle for the field goal. But then after that, he kind of starts to settle in. It was an up and down first half, I think, is the best way to look at it for Brock Purdy. He was up and down. He finishes the first half 9 of 19, 149 yards. He has 1 touchdown throwing. Like I said, it was just a little bit up and down for me. The second half comes out, and it's a completely different look. Right before half, you saw him on a number of occasions when they're trying to work the ball down the field. He's getting a little bit of pressure up the middle, and he starts it. And every time, we've talked a lot about it with Brock Purdy, does he have a tendency that defenses can pick up? And I think I found it. I think the tendency with Brock Purdy is that when he gets pressure up the middle, he is going to try to bail out of the pocket. He's going to try to spin back, and he's going to try to spin to his left. He doesn't usually do it to the right. It's almost always his first instinct when he sees pressure in his face is to spin on his left foot or spin on his right foot, and get out of that pocket and roll to his left. That's the first thing that he wants to do. Seems like that's just his instinct, is to do it that way. And we saw him kind of do that a few times there at the end of the first half, and it was a rough end of the half for Purdy. Second half, you saw him be much more under control. You saw him do a much better job. He finished the second half. He was 9 of 11 for 165 yards, a couple of scores. 185, I think it was the number. It was over 180 in the second half. I know that. Let me see. I think I have it here. He was. I don't, but he was 9. I know for sure that he was 9 of 11, over 180 yards in the second half, 2 touchdowns, a running touchdown. So the second half was just a totally different thing. And then, I mentioned at the opening of the show, what did Brock Purdy do today that Joe Montana and Steve Young never did? Well, going back to 1980, that's when I first came onto the scene in terms of being able to watch 49er football. And you have any idea what I was looking at. So, you go from 1980, so that's year 2 of Joe Montana. The next year was their first playoff run. So from Joe Montana's first playoff run till now, no 49ers quarterback, I believe it 7 different quarterbacks, maybe 6. Every quarterback, though, that started a game in the playoffs for the 49ers in their first start as the 49ers quarterback in the playoffs had a turnover. Brock Purdy today, no turnovers. 4 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 1 on the ground, over 300 yards passing. It was an all-time day for Brock Purdy, especially when you talk about the pantheon of 49ers quarterbacks. This was the performance. This is, if you were this performance today is better than anything that we'd seen from a 49ers quarterback since maybe 2013 with Colin Kaepernick in Green Bay, or 2012 Colin Kaepernick against Green Bay at home. Other than that, I don't think we've seen a quarterback play the way we've played today. They've won games, but they haven't had the plays out of the quarterback position that we saw today. So that was really solid. I really like what I saw out of him. And the other thing with Purdy is that one of his best plays doesn't even count as a completion. It's one of his 2 incompletions in the second half. It was. You'll remember it. It's the one where he drops back to pass. He gets some pressure, kind of goes to his left a little bit, spins back around, and this time he actually gets out to his right side, makes a guy miss, gets out wide. Another guy misses, steps back, and fires it into the back right corner of the end zone to Brandon Ayuk. Hits him right in the hands. The receiver's got to try to catch it along the sidelines, and the ball falls out of his hand, so it's incompletion. But that play was reminiscent of anything that you can put up against for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he was making guys miss left and right. Steps in there, throws it, puts a perfect ball on Ayuk, and it ends up as an incompletion. So just a tremendous play out of Brock Purdy. I mentioned it at one point. I think it was it was after one of his scrambles. I think it was during the second quarter. But Brock Purdy is everything that the 49ers need at the quarterback position. You might have guys with stronger arms, but Brock Purdy completes every ball that is asked to be thrown in this offense. He has the ability to make plays with his legs. He has the ability to make plays from the pocket, moving left and right. There's some things that he can clean up. I had somebody ask me on Twitter after the game if this was as good as he can get, something along those lines, and I said absolutely not. Purdy's numbers were good today, but there were he left things on the field with some bad throws. So it was a very good performance out of Brock Purdy overall. Like Coach Noah Johnston said to me on Twitter with one of my comments that I put up was, when it gets to the playoffs, it's not about making every play. It's about making enough plays to win the game. And Purdy definitely did that and more today. So, I look at this and if there's going to be folks out there and there's going to be a quarterback competition with Trey Lance next year, I believe that when this thing rolls around and the ball gets rolled out to start the 2023 season, the guy that's going to be the front runner is going to be Brock Purdy. He's going to be the front runner in that quarterback competition. Trey Lance is going to have to beat out Brock Purdy, not the other way around. Brock Purdy, I think, is the guy that is the incumbent or should be the incumbent quarterback next year when the 49ers hit training camp. His performance, what he's done, it's really spectacular when you consider the fact that this is a guy who didn't work with the first team at all until week, according to Kyle Shanahan, really when he had to step into it against Miami. He might have got a few snaps here and there, but other than that, it's not close to what we've seen out of a 49er quarterback in a long time. The performance that you're seeing, it's now 7 games in a row that he's thrown at least 2 touchdown passes. He doesn't turn the ball over. I understand that he has terrific weapons. He's doing everything that you can ask for, and he's doing it at a higher level than Jimmy Garoppolo ever did. And I was somebody who would come on here, and I still do believe that Jimmy Garoppolo deserves a lot of credit for the success that this team had while he was here. Brock Purdy is taking this offense to a different level. He did that today. So, that's some pretty good stuff there. I want to shout out a couple of folks over in the comment section. I've been talking quite a bit. I had David Wise here. He says, Mr. Hammer, I love your show. Thank you for the great commentary. David, thank you. Not sure what looks like a pineapple there. I appreciate that. Hufanga gave up nothing 2 weeks in a row. Some close game, huh, Jack? Goldblood. Hey, man, you know at halftime you were thinking that that wasn't something you wanted to hit me with today, because that was the first half was totally different than what this game ended up being. In terms of let me see, I'm not going to get into some of the other content creator stuff tonight, but I see the comment there about Lance versus Purdy, and I already gave you my 2 cents. I think this is Brock Purdy's team to lose. Can we cross Doug Peterson off for Coach of the Year? 5 turnovers in the first half. No, I don't think so. Again, you got to remember how bad Jacksonville was last season. I mean, we watched the 49ers roll through Jacksonville last year, and Jacksonville was just a complete cluster. Doug Peterson came and got them into the playoffs. I don't think tonight's result is any surprise. I think most people thought that was going to be a blowout. The AFC South, not a good division, about the same as the NFC South, and we're going to watch a team from Florida play on Monday night. So, no, I think that Doug Peterson definitely deserves Doug Peterson deserves to be in the Coach of the Year conversation, maybe even more so than Kyle Shanahan. I know a lot of that. Maybe and again, Kyle Shanahan's had a terrific year. I think when it comes to the 49ers, the award that the 49ers should receive is Executive of the Year. They have put together an amazing staff. That was well known, how good this roster was. Remember, before the season started, there were a number of people who were saying that the 49ers had the best roster in the league. The only question mark was the quarterback position. They've gone through 3 quarterbacks and are now into the second round of the playoffs with the second best record in their conference. So I think Peterson definitely deserves to be in that conversation. KW2421, I can't imagine the Niners trading Trey unless they get a crazy good offer like a first. I agree. I don't think they're going to trade Trey Lance either unless it's a first-round pick. It wouldn't make sense, especially with what you gave to get him. But I don't know if his value is ever going to get higher. If he's sitting on the bench, it's not. So, the tough thing when you look at Trey Lance is, can you get any kind of value back for him? And how important is he as your backup? And I think as a backup, he's extremely important. The 49ers, that's one of the things that I think I hope that they've learned their lesson, that having solid backup play is important. And I don't think there's a way the 49ers can keep Jimmy Garoppolo around. I think Garoppolo is going to get more money elsewhere than he would get to come back and back up Brock Purdy. And so with Trey Lance, I think you bring it in. I think you let them practice, and I think that when practice comes, that Brock Purdy will beat him out. If Brock Purdy continues to do the things that he's doing right now next year in training camp, it's not going to be close. I mean, Trey Lance never had Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle to play with, but he did have George Kittle in training camp, and in training camp this year, he never looked like what he did today. And I know the Flyers defense is pretty good, but we've seen them struggle at times against the pass here as well. And we hear about how all these weapons the 49ers have. You either have really good weapons or you have a really good defense. I don't know which one. If you want to make the excuse for Trey Lance's performance in training camp based off of the fact that how good the Flyers defense was, I guess you can make that. But, you look at his numbers from his rookie season, and he was really good in training camp playing against guys that were on the second team and the third team. Black 59 Razor, Jack, do you think Coach Shanahan will trust Purdy more than he did Jimmy versus Minnesota in 2019? I showed that today. He showed that today when Purdy was struggling after that first drive. He never backed off. He kept throwing, kept going after it. Purdy finished up with what was his total today? It was 30 pass attempts. They called more than 30 pass attempts because he got sacked once and he scrambled once as well. So, 30 pass attempts with the way that he was playing today. That's a pretty solid day for Brock Purdy, and I think that shows a lot about. I think that says a lot about where Kyle Shanahan is with him. Kyle Shanahan, I don't remember Jimmy Garoppolo throwing that many passes in a game. So, really solid performance. And as far as your question there, I think it's already there. I think that he has a ton of trust. Does Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. That's a big part of where the 49ers are right now. So we've seen that continue to blossom. Now, I'm gonna move along really quick. I'm gonna jump over to my second topic that I had put up ahead of time, based off of the pregame questions that I had. And number 2 was, can the offensive line are they going to be up to the task? And the answer with that is yeah, for sure. I caught a little bit of grief from one of the offensive players last week when I mentioned the struggles they were having and Daniel Brunskill having to play on the left side. We saw that change today. We saw the 49ers with Aaron Banks back. We saw that rotation kick up once again at right guard, where you had Spencer Burford and Daniel Brunskill rotating like they had been doing all along. And that 49ers offensive line played well. You look at the numbers today, there was only 1 sack of Brock Purdy. He was only hit 3 times. So really good there. Obviously, Purdy's escapability helps that out a little bit, which is also what you would think would be the case with pretty much everybody than Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo can move around a little bit more this year than in the past, but not so much. But that offensive line, I thought they had a really solid day today, especially in pass protection, but also on the ground. They had 181 yards rushing, 33 attempts. Early in the game, in the first 2 possessions, they had a 22-yard run by Deebo Samuel. Hello, Deebo Samuel. I don't remember who it was that questioned Deebo Samuel during my pregame show, but I told you to cool the jets a little bit on that. Deebo Samuel had himself a day. And then you had a 68-yard run around the left side by Christian McCaffrey to open up the second possession. And so the 49ers were just running the ball really well. They had really good pass protection. So you've got to shout out Jake Brendel. You got to shout out Trent Williams. And hey, where was Mike McGlinchey today? Anybody hear Mike McGlinchey's name? I don't think so. Left guard, like I said already, Aaron Banks, Brendel at center, and then the tandem of Burford and Brunskill at right guard. I think that offensive line, I said it before the season, they were going to be the best offensive line the 49ers have had during Kyle Shanahan's regime here and time here. And he's done that, or they've done that, that group. Chris Foerster doing a great job with that offensive line group, getting them to play at a very high level. And then it's a group that they've had success with, and it's not even been just having to have the starters in there. Real quick, want to bring this one up. Joe, thank you very much for the super chat. Joe Bonano. Joe Bonano. I hope that's how I said that right. I appreciate the super chat. He says, what do you think happened on the Ayuk give up play? Oh, I'm going to have to see. I'm going to have to look at that one. I don't know exactly. But I think that he was maybe, I think what happened is maybe he's running like a post, but he's reading the guy on top of him. So if the guy's on top, he can cut it off. And I don't know. I can't really speak to it until it, actually educated. I can't speak to you for sure. We'll find out more about that on Monday when I do the film review. I think we'll have the film in time to do the film review on Monday of this week. I apologize for not being able to do it last week. That was when we were evacuated. But we'll get the film review for this game done, and I'll answer your question, Joe. But I just think it was it was either a miscommunication on both of their parts, or Purdy just made the wrong read. He was pretty upset with that. I don't know if he was yelling at Ayuk about, keep going. I don't remember him like really saying that, but he wasn't doing any with his hands or anything like that, but he was definitely yelling. He might've been yelling because he thought that there should have been a pass interference or something like that at the top of the route as well. So we'll check it out. And I'll definitely get back to you with an answer on that, Joe. So if you watch the film breakdown, check it out. I think it's going to be on Monday. Make sure you hit me up. It doesn't have to be a super chat. Just hit me up and tell me you want, I'll make sure that I detail that one for you, what I think happened there. Texas Snyder asked, do you watch the game from the media box? I do. I'm fully credentialed with the 49ers to get to go to practices and go into the locker room during the week and all those types of things. I just, today I wasn't able to go up because of the weather. There were some flood warnings in the area. And so I had to stay home for that. And then I also injured my hamstring on my left leg earlier this morning, helping some folks out around here. So stayed home, and I'll be up in Santa Clara this week for practice, either on Tuesday or Wednesday for sure. And then most likely going to be Wednesday. And then I'll be up in Santa Clara for the game, whether it's next Saturday or Sunday. I'll be up there then. I think we're looking at some really good weather for next weekend. I think he might have. It looked like he might have come off. They were definitely talking to him, but it could have just been because they were getting into where they were going to kick a field goal. So he didn't. Because he was out there in the second half. So I don't know if he got benched or not. Green Glass Fool. Did anyone see Purdy give Banks a slap of props? I didn't see that. But Aaron Banks should. Aaron Banks has played at a really good level this season at left guard. A guy that just people. Again, this is one of the things that happens a lot of times is a guy doesn't play. It's a highly drafted rookie. A lot of people thought that Banks was going to be somebody that was going to step in right away at right guard. Didn't work out. And then he on top, the big part of it I think that people missed was that Banks was injured in that first preseason game, which set him behind. And there's a rush to judgment on this platform for many folks. And we've seen that be the case with Aaron Banks, and we've seen that be the case with a number of other people. We saw with Diamador Lenore. I saw a comment here where Texas Niner was shouting out Diamador Lenore's performance, and I agree. Diamador Lenore is a guy who I've been saying has been playing at a pretty good level since he moved to the outside. Nobody wanted to hear it because he was coming off of a rough game against the Raiders, but he came in today and he played really good. He didn't get any, nobody got behind him. He gave up some catches, but everything was contested. Made a really good hit on, I think it might've been on Lockett on one reception, but he's a solid corner. He's not a spectacular corner, but he's a solid corner who, because of the fact that he's a second-year player that didn't see the field as a rookie, had one bad game down the stretch. It's one of those things where people decide on a guy, and once you make a mistake, it's like you can't get past it. I think we just need to try to be a little bit more measured in our approach with these guys. We can call them out. We can say that they played bad or whatever, but you got to be a little bit better at understanding why things are happening out there. Joe, I want to say thank you. You're a member of the toolbox with that dollar sign there. So I appreciate that. So make sure you, and Brock was definitely yelling, and I'm not sure exactly who he was. Oh yeah, that was true. I did see that where Purdy gave the ball to Banks to Spike. I think that was after his quarterback sneak into the end zone. So yes, I did see that. So I thought there was something maybe that he had said. Let's see what else we got. I think this is true too. Clarkstand 49 says Brock has the voice in the locker room if he's yelling at guys already. And that's one of the things that's Trent Williams said from day one of Brock Purdy stepping into the lineup, was that he is a leader. He's not afraid to step into the huddle and tell a guy like Trent Williams, who's a a long-term veteran, all pro, to shut the F up so he can call the play. He's not a guy who's afraid to get in people's face. You saw the yelling on the field today. You've heard the comments from Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy about, how Kyle Shanahan doesn't have to sugarcoat anything with him. He can just tell him what he expects. And Brock has enough intestinal fortitude of his own to be able to handle that kind of stuff. Those are all extremely positive things. And that's why I think he has a voice in the locker room. I think that the players respect him. The way people talk to him or talk about him is very similar to how they've talked about other players. And, I was also interested. The comments that were made by Christian McCaffrey to Matt Mayoko on the NBC pregame, I heard that earlier in the week, but he gave major props to Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's another piece too. I think Jimmy Garoppolo gets a bad rap for a lot of things, but there's no reason. Like, one of the things with Jimmy Garoppolo and people saying good things about him as far as players is you hear guys say, well, they want to trade him. That's one of the things that we heard last year. Oh, they're trying to get rid of him. Christian McCaffrey has nothing to gain by propping up Jimmy Garoppolo. They can't trade him. He's going to be the 49er until the season ends, whenever it does. And then he's going to be a free agent. He can go wherever the heck he wants to go. And so for Christian McCaffrey to step in here, only been on the team now for 12 weeks, to say the things that he said about Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that speaks volumes about the kind of guy that Jimmy Garoppolo is. We've heard that from a lot of people around the organization itself, but to hear it from somebody who came from outside, who really doesn't have anything to gain by propping him up, I think that speaks volumes too. So I want to be really clear that when I'm talking about how good Brock Purdy is, and I do say that he played better than Jimmy Garoppolo because he did, I'm not trying to rip him. I believe that Jimmy Garoppolo was a valuable piece of this team from 2018 until 2021. He was a valuable piece of this team this year. The 49ers aren't in this position if Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't kept. One of the things that I get a lot of questions on Twitter, and one of them was, what do you think the 49ers record would have been if Brock Purdy was the starter from day one? I don't think they're 13-4. I think they would have struggled a lot more. I think it's very similar to it. Does my belief on it's very similar to what I said last year when people were saying that Trey Lance should be the day one starter. He starts from the beginning. And I said, no, he needs time to learn. Let him get some time under his belt. Let him develop a little bit, and then he can play. I think that helped out Brock Purdy, the fact that he wasn't the day one starter, the fact that he had to fight his way onto the roster, the fact that he continued to fight and do what he needed to do. He was able to sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo and learn from him. He's given props to Jimmy Garoppolo for the help that he's gotten from him. He's also done it with Trey Lance. I think that if he had started day one, you're not 13-4. You're not the number 2 seed. You're probably playing tomorrow against Minnesota, against the New York Giants instead. If he had been the starter from day one, you're probably a 10-win team, maybe a 10-win team, because you're going to lose some games along the way that you should have, just because it takes time for these guys to develop. I know we saw what he was when he stepped into Miami, but I think it's lost about how much you can gain playing against one of the best defenses in the league on a day in, day out basis. We saw it work out with Trey Lance last year, and we're seeing it now. But he's continued to be positive. Randall Riley, no member of the toolbox, says, I remember all training camp and preseason, everyone worried about the center and guards, and I was saying, just stop and wait. They will be trained up and developed. Glad I was right. Randall, I'm right there with you. I'm glad I was right too. High five to you, Randall, another member of the toolbox. I was right there with you all throughout training camp. I kept saying, as everybody was bitching and moaning about this offensive line during the preseason games, just going to go ahead and just put it out there. As that was happening, I kept saying, chill. We haven't seen this offensive line together very much. We haven't seen this offensive line. I could see it during training camp when Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey were out there. They did a very good job as an offense. When Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams weren't out there, which was quite often, especially during the open portion of training camp, they struggled. Wow, you're telling me that when you take an all-pro left tackle off the field and top 10 in the NFL right tackle off the field, your offensive line is going to struggle against Nick Bosa and Samson Ebukam? Okay, that's fantastic analysis. I tell you the same thing. That's not a surprise, and it shouldn't be. I said it repeatedly on my streams about those guys. So I appreciate that. That's a good one. That's a fantastic super chat. I see we got a lot of smart guys on this channel, smart ladies watching the show as well. Probably even got some kids on here too. So we got a lot of fun folks on here, and you guys are coming up with some good comments and questions. Let's see what else we've got. I mean, I'm going to fast forward to the end of you guys have so many of them in here. Let's see what else we got. Okay. I'm going to go to my third one. And my third topic for tonight was in my things to watch for was, will Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle stay hot? That was a yes as well. And you got to throw Deebo Samuel in there too. Christian McCaffrey had 136 total yards and a touchdown on 17 touches. Just continues to put up those numbers. He's been doing it all along ever since he stepped into the starting lineup. He had that big 68-yard sprint down the left sideline. Got a 3-yard touchdown reception just 4 plays later. With Kittle, it was a little bit different, right? It was a different game for George Kittle. He was only targeted twice. The whole Kittle the whole Purdy to Kittle connection wasn't there tonight in terms of touchdowns. But that's because he was throwing to other people. Purdy threw 2 balls to him. Both of them were caught, and they went for 37 yards. So it was a 23-yarder and a 15-yarder, I think it was, 23 or 14, something like that. They were both good chunk plays. And so Kittle definitely had a good role there. You also had Kittle catching the 2-point conversion that made it 31-17. So that connection is there. I think the one that should stand out to most people was what Deebo Samuel did tonight. Like I said in my post-game show or pregame show this morning, early afternoon before the game, I had somebody questioning, where is Deebo Samuel in terms of his performance and everything. Deebo Samuel showed tonight that Deebo Samuel is still Deebo Samuel. I said on that show, just give him time. It's just a matter of him getting the opportunities, and they have so many weapons that you're not going to get all these guys opportunities every game. You could see from the outset that Deebo Samuel was expected to have a big role in the game. They had him in the backfield early. They wanted to get the ball in his hands. You saw him do that. You saw him, with a 74-yard touchdown grab. You have the 22-yard run on the first possession, help set up that first field goal. Deebo Samuel was everything. And then there was one play, and we'll get into this on the film breakdown, the one that I really liked was, I think I'll have to see it on the film to make sure that I'm correct. But remember the touchdown throw to George Kittle in Seattle? That's 4 strong, where they motioned the fullback to the tight end side, and then they have on the backside, they have a slant. Well, they ran that play tonight. They threw it, but the difference was it was Christian McCaffrey at wide receiver on the singled up side, and you had in the backfield was Kyle Juszczyk along with Deebo Samuel, stuff like that. You get a 14-yard completion to Christian McCaffrey. I said during the game, McCaffrey's a cheat code for this offense. I was one of the first, if not the first. I don't know, but I know that I was one of them when everybody was talking about Brian Burns to the 49ers. I was the one who said Brian Burns is cool, but it's Christian McCaffrey that this team needs. Burns would be good. Brian Burns would be good, opposite of Nick Bosa. This team wouldn't be as good as they are now if that had been the case instead. He would still be getting some numbers, but he would not impact the team the way that Christian McCaffrey has. Christian McCaffrey has completely changed this offense. Yes, Brock Purdy has helped it along the way as well, but it began with Christian McCaffrey stepping into the starting lineup. We saw it in Los Angeles. The Jimmy Garoppolo numbers are knocked down. You see this all the time. 33 points with Brock Purdy, 26 with Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, the Jimmy Garoppolo also includes a bad game against, I don't even know if I call it a bad game, but a game against New Orleans where they were held to 13 points. Again, it's all about perspective, and I think we lose it a lot. And there we go. Harold, it's good to have you on board. He says that the internet connection is slow as the weather is getting bad. It's pouring now, raining hard. I had that issue earlier on too during the game, so right before the game started. So I totally hear you on that. That's a bummer there. Val Ramos says hammer 100%. Thank you, Val. Good to have you on board. We've got Jaguayo says Jack. Core players are focused and hungry, very hungry. I think so. I think this is a team that wants to go out and win the Super Bowl. They're tired of what's happened in 19 and 21. They added pieces that are necessary to get this team over the hump. That's why they gave up all those draft picks for Christian McCaffrey. It's paying off. I definitely agree with you. I think this is a team that's extremely focused on Hungary. I thought that other than that second quarter of this game, the 49ers dominated it. The second quarter, it felt like the 49ers got punched in the mouth and they didn't respond well. They lost their composure for a bit there. They were able to gather themselves at halftime, and it was a different game after that. So, Joao, thank you very much for your super chat. I'm going to finish up. I got a couple more things I want to hit on. Will the 49ers front seven force Geno Smith to beat him? That was a yes as well. Kenneth Walker. It was all about Kenneth Walker. Like I said, in the first half, the 49ers had a real tough time with him. He picked up 54 yards on 13 carries. He became the second player running back facing the 49ers to get over 59 yards rushing, but he wasn't far. I think it was only at 61 or 62. He only carried the ball twice in the second half. You look at that, and really, I felt like I know they had the deep shot play, but Seattle's was at their best running the ball. They were running the ball well in the 49ers, and they got away from it. They weren't bought into it, and they weren't committed to it, I guess, is there. And you go into the second half, and they ran, like you said, he ran the ball so well there. Seattle went away from the run. The second half, they only ran the ball 5 times. 5 attempts in the entire second half. Geno Smith, now with the pressure on his back, he went 9 of 10 for 104 in the first half. In the second half, he was 16 to 25, which looked good. But most of that came in garbage time. He had the touchdown in garbage time. You look at it, and because of that pressure that they were able to put on, and the fact that they made this game about Geno Smith, tremendous story, great year for a guy that's career had not been anywhere near what he thought it was going to be. It's been a good season for him, but this game played out the way that I thought it would in terms of if this game gets put on the Geno Smith shoulders, it's plus for the 49ers. You saw the strip sack for Amenahu, Diamador Lenore with the big interception. That's his second interception of his career. For Lenore, second one this season that's counted, is actually his second interception of Smith. The first one to open Seattle, the pick six, didn't count. But they definitely put the ball. They made Seattle have to go with Geno Smith, and it didn't work out for him. And then the other question I had on the defensive side was, can the secondary keep DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in front of them? And that one was a no, but it was a no in that it was a no in that it didn't cost them the game. So sometimes, most of these things, it's best when they get 5 yeses, but sometimes you can win with a no here and there. Real quick, Clarsard 49, did Givens play today? He did. Ridgeway cannot come back. He is on IR, and they don't have any more IR call-ups available to them. Just going back to it, though, real quick, Metcalf had the one big play. He had the 50-yard touchdown pass over Charvarius Ward. Beat him like a drum. Just beat him. But other than that, he finished with 136 yards and a couple of touchdowns on 10 catches. But that was the only time in the game that Metcalf was behind the 49ers defense where he made a catch, was the touchdown. Other than that, everything else was in front, and they came up and they made the tackle, almost made the tackle every time Charvarius Ward got ran over on that one on the right sideline, right in front of the Seattle bench. But other than that, you saw them do a very good job keeping Metcalf in front of him. There was very tight coverage on those slants, and he's a big dude with long arms, which makes it hard for him to cover on those, especially if he's able to make those really nice hands catches. So Metcalf got his numbers. But that was it. Tyler Lockett, he had 6 catches for 39 yards, a long of only 10 yards. He did a good job without moving the sticks. I'm not a big fan of Tyler Lockett. I think I shouldn't say that. I think he's a really good receiver, but I don't like about Tyler Lockett is this is a guy who catches the ball and digs a hole in the ground because he doesn't want to get hit. I don't like that part about Tyler Lockett. I think at some point along the line he must have got his bell rung and he just doesn't want contact. He is the opposite of Deebo Samuel, opposite of what Brandon Ayuk are. Really quick, I need to touch base. I forgot to mention this. I forgot to shout it out. I mentioned earlier the Deebo Samuel catch and run for 74 yards down the left sideline. That touchdown doesn't occur if it's not for Brandon Ayuk working his ass off down the field with a block that creates the lane down the sideline for Deebo Samuel. So you got to give a shout out to Brandon Ayuk, who had some big catches today as well. I think he had 73 yards receiving today for Brandon Ayuk. So a big day for him. Not leading receiver, that goes to Deebo, but the the play of Brandon Ayuk today, he's just a really good all-around receiver. 3 catches, 73 yards, along of 31. So that shows you what he was doing today. He was right around that number. He was average, the 31 and to come up with 73. I think that's pretty accurate with what he was doing today, because he was right around that 20-yard mark on all of those catches. So really good stuff there for Brandon Ayuk. Wanted to make sure that I shouted that out. Shout out to Elijah Mitchell as well for his receiving touchdown and some good runs there. There was one 4-yard run. I don't remember when it was. I think it was must have been the fourth quarter, and he just trucked over one of the Seattle safeties that came down, and he just ran over him. That was a fantastic play as well. And then the last thing really quick, this was the bonus question I threw up, and was who wins this turnover battle? That was the 49ers. You had that forced fumble, already talked about them. The fumble forced by Menahu, recovered by Bosa, the Nor's interception. San Francisco now, since the start of last season, is 23-3 when they don't turn the ball over more than their opponent. That's the stat for the 49ers, is their turnovers. And what are they doing there? If they don't turn the ball over, they are going to win. That's their key. That's the one thing as we go through this and we get into next week in the divisional round. You need to win the turnover battle. You win the turnover battle, you win the game, and that's it. Let's see. Just want to check out really quick a couple over in the comment section what we've got going on. Somebody had a question here for me that I'm going to take. It was about the quarterback situation. And then I'm going to get to EKIMs. It's Val Ramos. He says, Jack, don't you always need 3 good quarterbacks on the roster? Why get rid of Trey? No, you don't need 3. You need 2. You really need 2 if you can have 3. I mean, if you can have 3 really good quarterbacks on your roster, you're really doing something. No, and when it comes to getting rid of Trey, unless it's a high first, or unless it's a first, or maybe even a high second. I mean, I was saying earlier in the week, last week, I was saying a high first, but I think maybe even if it's a high second, because that value of Trey Lance isn't going to grow. If Brock Purdy beats him out next year, his value, I think right now, is as high as it's ever going to get. And this is really going to be a fun conversation that we should talk about after the season, once this playoff run is done. But you do need to have a couple. The 49ers know that they need to have a solid backup behind Trey Lance. I'm not sure where that is, and if it's not Trey Lance right now, I think it probably is. But that'll be a fun conversation. Like I said, we'll definitely get into the Trey versus Brock and who should stay, if somebody should go. We'll get into all that stuff once this season is over. But I want to focus on the playoffs for now. We'll get into that a little bit because I know people want to talk about it, and it's a hot topic. Gets people talking, but I'm not there right now. I want to bring up this one too from me. Kim, he says, Jack, who do you see winning the other 2 NFC playoff games? I see Tampa Bay winning on Monday night. Dallas isn't very good on the grass. I just have a feeling about Tampa that they're going to be able to win that. Tomorrow, I think it's going to be Minnesota in New York. I'm kind of torn a little bit on this one. I think that it would be good for the 49ers to have an extra day off and play next Sunday. I'd kind of rather see their game next week be the Sunday game, which would mean that the Giants win tomorrow, which would then bring the winner of Dallas and Tampa out here. But I think Minnesota probably is going to be able to get that win tomorrow, which means that you'll have Minnesota coming out here to play next Saturday with the winner of the game on Monday night going to Philly on Sunday. So I think that's the way that we're going to see this breakdown. And whoever wins that game, whoever plays Philadelphia next week, if the 49ers win their game, whichever day they play, let's just hope that they beat Philly, because that would be a lot of fun. I think that Philly team, with the way they run the ball, they're not going to go away from it the way that Seattle did tonight, and the way that it's working out right now. I'm a little nervous at that. So Jay Mill wants to know why somebody thinks Trey is actually good. What has he done to make you think that? He was taken at number 3. That's what makes people think that. EKIM, 49ers are in the catbird seat cap-wise with Lance and Purdy. They are. That's one of the benefits. That's one of the reasons why they might hold on to everybody and, roll with it. They have a pretty solid roster. I don't know who they take early on in the draft unless there's somebody that they really love that they would need to trade up for. So we'll see. And like I said, we'll get into the whole Lance Purdy thing, I'm sure, a bunch more. But it's a fun one to discuss, that's for sure. Sean 9519ers, let's go live. Hey, Sean, good to see you. I've got to go inside because it's time for dinner in a minute. If I stay on much longer, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to be sleeping in the rain. But we'll definitely here's what we're going to do, Sean. I'm not sure what the schedule is this week, but I will try to make sure. I will try to get a call-in show done. If I don't get a call-in show done throughout the week, we will do one over the weekend. But I'm going to try. Maybe I can even get that done on Wednesday or something like that. But we'll get together for sure. I would love to hear all of you guys and do a live, do a call-in show. That's what I would really like to do. Is I'd really like to be able to do this, and instead of taking your comments over there, just do like where I get you guys all on here and you talk for like 2 minutes, and we can argue and talk and. You guys can just share it, like for the older guys. Remember what sports radio used to be like when they used to take calls from callers? How fun that was! I know that some people do that on this YouTube platform. Jesse does a great job of it. Grant has done it for a while. I would love to have that platform here. Maybe I just need to do a better job of being nice to people. I'm not sure, but you guys are fantastic. Let me just see. There was an argument that somebody says they need to listen to me about. He said, oh, here it is. Trey isn't going to be happy if he has to sit. Well, the last pick in the draft takes the job. He thought he had won this year. Here's what I'm going to say to that. Tough shit. I was there, and I'm sorry. I don't usually swear all that much, but tough patootie, because Jimmy Garoppolo was the guy, right? And he was there anybody that felt bad for Jimmy Garoppolo than the guys that were total Jimmy guys? And Trey might not be happy, but you know what? You're drafted. You're here. You're a member of this team. If you don't like it, do your best somewhere else. I don't know what else to say. I think the Friars have a culture that's good enough to make everybody happy. Sean says, okay, hey, I appreciate you understanding. Just trying to get through. Kevin says, shameful promotional plug. Nice to see you dropped your Toolbox membership by half. Think I'll rejoin till the off season again. Thank you, Kevin. I would appreciate that. That'd be fantastic. They didn't even spend 3 first-round draft picks on Jimmy Garoppolo. No, they didn't. They spent a lot of money on him, but I think even that deal was a good one. That's a fun one that we can talk again. Kim Trey is getting paid $9 million under a rookie deal. That's right. So the Friars are in a good position at the quarterback spot. We'll see what they decide to do once that comes on. But here's the thing: 49ers 41, Seahawks 23. 49ers rolling into the second round. We'll find out probably tomorrow. We'll have a good idea of who they're going to be playing. Like I said, if it is the Giants, they will play on Saturday. If it's the Vikings, they will play on Saturday. If the Giants win tomorrow, that means the 49ers game will get bumped to Sunday. So that's how we get to know where we are. Raphael 569ers, I appreciate you. You always keep me on track. You say like and subscribe, everybody, because that's what we need to do. Had a lot of folks in here. The show went almost an hour. I usually only talk for about 20, but you guys were fantastic. I was fired up. I was excited. That was a good game. The way the 49ers played in the second half, they came out a totally different game. Really excited for a guy like Charles Omenihu to see him make that play, change the game around. Guy like Diamondor Lenore, guys, I like to see guys who get the short end of the stick it to people. They probably don't even know what we're saying about them, but they go out and make big plays today. Positive, big. Give the game ball to Charles Omenihu. Give a high five to Diamondor Lenore for his play. 49ers moving on to the divisional round. 2 more wins, and they're in the Super Bowl. So here we go, everybody. Please, before you leave, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this, you're already subscribed. If you hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell notification so you know when we go live. And last but not least, keep it locked in here to the Jackhammer channel. I try to give you the breaking news as it happens. As I find out about it, I try to get on here and help you out and get that to you. So please keep yourself locked into the channel here. Think about becoming a member as well. Tell your friends and your family, because the more this channel grows, the more coverage I'm able to bring to you. And Kevin, following through with what he just said, becomes a new member once again of the Jackhammer channel. So thank you very much, Kevin. Way to finish this show off strong. Have a great rest of your Saturday, everybody. Stay safe out there if you're in an area that's impacted by the weather that's starting to come down again. Otherwise, keep it in. I'm not sure if I'll be on tomorrow, but I'll definitely be on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So thank you all. Have a great night. Take care, and we'll talk soon.